The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube. And on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated across the United States into 12 million additional households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Well, we woke up this morning to the news that there was yet another terrorist threat here in New York City, that the transportation system in and around New York City potentially would be targeted during the holiday season, which, for those of you who are not in the United States, I will remind you, begins tomorrow with Thanksgiving Day through New Year's Day, and with Christmas wedged in between. We've had these kind of threats before. The NYPD does a wonderful job of responding to them. I've got to tell you, without getting into too much specificity, the NYPD is just doing a heck of a job, in my opinion, when it comes to its counterterrorism efforts. However, that being said, there's no guarantees. There are no guarantees, are there, when it comes to that issue? And then just on the heels of that news, there were a series of coordinated attacks occurring in Mumbai, formerly Bombay, India, going on even as we speak. About 80 people dead thus far, 200 plus injured, and probably that figure will go up even higher. Before we get to our guest, Joe Coffey, who is a former detective for the NYPD, and by the way, happens to be the most highly decorated detective in NYPD history, at least over the past 30 years, now retired, author of the book The Coffey Files, Coffey Files. But before we get to you, Joe, let me just put you on hold just for a second here and turn to our correspondent, Alan Jacey, who can bring us up to date as to what's going on in India right now.
Yeah, well, hi, Gary. Thank you. Right now, there are a number of attacks reported all over Mumbai. There are several hotels that have been frequented by Westerners. One is the Taj Hotel, which is, like I said earlier, is a majestic old hotel and beautiful building that's on fire. And there was another one called the Uberoi, which was also attacked. In addition, I believe the railway station was attacked, as well as some restaurants that were also frequented by Westerners. A little-known group called the Deccan Mujahideen has claimed responsibility. Now, for most of you know, the Mujahideen is from their early incarnation, the Afghan freedom fighters who fought against the Russian occupation in the late 80s and early 90s in Afghanistan. So I don't know what this Deccan Mujahideen, if they have any ties to Al-Qaeda or not. But right now, they're also reporting that hostage were taken at the Taj as well as the Uberoi Hotel. We don't know how many. We also know that there are a number of these terrorists that have been taken into custody. And we're trying to get as many facts out as we can right now. I'm watching one of the international stations that is sharing the news feed with the Indian local affiliate, and they're showing this beautiful Taj Hotel on fire. It looks just awful. And as you mentioned, Gary, that they're reporting 78 people dead, and I believe 240 people have been injured so far. But these numbers could change. You know, they obviously can't get into all the rooms and check for the damage and to see how many other people have been hurt during this terrible events of today.
Well, the bad news, of course, is that in addition to the fact that there are terrorist attacks going on there, they are targeting Westerners. They were looking for people with U.S. and British passports as their targets. Good news is that the Indian Army moved in and, to my knowledge, based on my reading of what we know thus far, freed the hostages, or at least the bulk of them. But this gives us good reason to turn to my good friend Joe Coffey here in New York. Joe, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
How are you, Gary?
It's always a pleasure, sir, to see you and talk to you. I wish we could see each other in person, but we didn't have opportunity this time. Perhaps next time. Joe, tell me, are you surprised that they are targeting Westerners there in India?
No, of course not. I mean, the Westerners, particularly the British and the Americans, are the main targets of Al-Qaeda and the terrorists all over the world, and have been since the early 90s during the Clinton administration, because of the fact the Clinton administration failed to treat them as what they are, acts of war. They were able to spread their evil all over the world, including here in the United States, as we all know, on September 11th.
You know, I think we're a little complacent lately, even here in New York City. I've said previously when we've talked about this issue, Joe, that outside of New York City, the memory of September the 11th, 2001, started to fade already. But I never thought it would happen here in New York. But I think we're getting a little bit complacent that maybe this, and whether they are co-joined as related or not, along with the threat that we are hearing about with regard to the subway system, might be enough to shock us into reality and recognize that this threat did not go away. And just because we haven't seen another attack on our soil since September the 11th, 2001, doesn't mean that we're not vulnerable.
Well, the New York City Police Department